Jamal Murray beats the buzzer a second time to end the Lakers season. The scribes are realizing what level-headed people knew all along. Kawhi Leonard's extension was bound to fail, and UCLA football wants versatility from the offensive line. Good morning. I'm James. This is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is the faithful Angelenos morning report. So it is April 30th, 2024. We are back in the sanctum sanctorum of LA sports. It's a lovely thing. And if you want to feel like you're in love with LA sports, well, clickety-clack the like button. Clickety-clack the subscribe button. There's a notification bell. Hit that. It'll let you know we drop new content. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist. And by all means, comment. Now, I pushed the microphone out of the way because I want to show you guys the whiteboard of wisdom as we are going to deep dive into the Lakers offseason in just a couple of moments. Because as always, before we go through the news and notes, we take a look at the scoreboard. Denver 108, Lakers 106. Jamal Murray sinks a jumper with 3.6 seconds left. The Nuggets eliminate the Lakers from the playoffs for a second consecutive year. LeBron James scored 30 points to lead the Lakers. Anthony Davis added 17. Davis was limited after a shoulder injury in the third quarter. Austin Reeves ahead 19. Get your scuba gear for the upcoming deep dive. Dodgers 8, Arizona 4. And yes, there are going to be TV goofballs who will say this is revenge for getting eliminated in the NL playoffs last year. No, it's not. Stop it. Nobody in either dugout thinks that way. Will Smith homered. Andy Pages drives in 3. Teoscar Hernandez scored twice, drives in 2. Meanwhile, today the Dodgers are at Arizona at 6:40. London Knack is 1-1 with a 3.27 ERA. Jordan Montgomery 1-1, 2.77 ERA. Now, the thing about the Lakers, and we have discussed this a lot over the history of this program, there's always going to be drama. There are very few franchises that generate this much drama. The Dallas Cowboys, for one. The Lakers, definitely there. And so because of that, you are going to see a lot of unfounded rumors in print, in broadcast media, online in the coming weeks. You're going to hear about a lot of people, for example, demanding Darvin Ham's head on a pike. I've read multiple articles with sources claiming that Ham stays. I've read multiple articles with sources claiming Ham goes. The Athletic and ESPN indicate Ham's job is in peril. We're going to start there because, as the question up top asks, is Darvin Ham the scapegoat? See, there are problems with the Ham has to go crowd. The Nuggets are the defending champs. It would have been an upset if the Lakers had ousted Denver either last year or this year. You could easily argue that because the Lakers led for much of the series, that Ham coached up a team that had matchup issues. Also, the Lakers made the playoffs despite their players having missed the fourth most games in the league due to injury. But let's say you just succumb to the Twitter anger mob and you fire Ham. Here is my question for you. Who do you replace him with? Is Phil Jackson available? No, he isn't. Wow. Who is the best replacement available? Because I was doing a little bit of research. The best available coach I can gather is Mike Budenholzer. By the way, who is Mike Budenholzer's top assistant? Darvin Ham. So, what the hell are we talking about when we're saying that the solution is to fire Darvin Ham? Right? Anyone? Does anybody have a better solution, or are we just talking about rage moves? Okay, so there's that. I'm not going to sit there and tell you Darvin Ham is John Wooden. I'm just saying, let's just not hit the eject button too quickly. because there will be a lot of movement in the offseason. As for potential playoff movement, we start with the centerpiece, LeBron James. I believe James will opt out of his contract as his right for this offseason. I think he wants to stay in LA. Reports were breaking last night that the Lakers have every intention of keeping him, even if it means drafting his son with a cardiac problem, Bronny, the 6'2" NBA guy that nobody would consider for the NBA if his last name weren't James. I wish my name carried that much weight. I think LeBron wants the leverage of opting out so that the front office will be pressured to rebuild the team. And I think that's most likely going to include a third superstar not named Russell Westbrook. Now, you will hear lots of names bandied about online. I had people asking me last night about Trae Young. But in order to land that so-called third superstar, the smart money says that we've seen the last of D'Angelo Russell in a Lakers uniform again. Depending on what the Lakers have to do to satisfy James, there are as many as 6 other players who would have to leave in order to create the necessary cap space to bring in somebody like Trae Young. Losing as many as 7 players, assuming James stays, reminds me of something that I also read a few weeks ago on ESPN.com. They were comparing the Lakers with the Nuggets. The writer said that one thing that separates Denver from the Lakers is the Nuggets have played together for years. So everybody on that roster knows what the other guy is doing. The Lakers roster, on the other hand, is in a constant state of flux. Ah, yes, much like the Greek philosophers Zeno and Heraclitus debated. Is everything the same and not changing, or is everything in the world a state of flux? Look, the conclusion that the writer drew is that the Lakers should be like Denver and keep the band together. That's not going to happen. LeBron James will not allow it to happen. When LA lured James away from Cleveland, everybody involved knew the Lakers did not have the luxury of time in order to build a consistent champion. They didn't. James admits he can't play forever. He wants to grab as many rings as he can get before he rides off into the sunset. The Lakers knew this. That was the trade-off that the Lakers made in order to acquire him in the first place. We'll do whatever it takes to get you in a position to win titles was part of this unwritten promise that went with the contract. And by the way, it already worked once in 2020. So no, you're not going to see this roster grow together. Now, as for assets, which is on this side of the board, the Lakers have multiple picks in the upcoming draft. They have numbers 17 and 55. New Orleans, though, can take the first rounder as compensation for the Anthony Davis trade years ago. Or they can punt on the 17th pick and see if they can do better next year. The Lakers also have, oh, by the way, the possibility of 3 tradable first-round picks on draft night. It's an NBA rule. They will allow a few more to be traded for whatever reason. There are 11 potential free agents, with the caveat that 5 of them are under contract with the right to opt out, such as James and Russell. Now, I believe James will demand Rob Pelinka land a third superstar, most likely a guard, or maybe instead a 3-and-D guy. I think they are targeting somebody who can match up with somebody on the Nuggets, i.e. Jamal Murray. It will not be easy to land a third superstar, but again, the Lakers have assets. We mentioned a moment ago, as many as 3 tradable first-round draft picks that would come up on the night of the NBA draft. If Russell, this is the key, if D'Angelo Russell decides to opt in, he could be the chip in a sign and trade deal. If, however, Russell decides to opt out, then the Lakers would have 4 remaining players with contracts that theoretically would work in combination with a trade. And those 4 players, Austin Reeves, Gabriel Vincent, Rui Hachimura, Jared Vanderbilt. Also, Russell leaving would give them cap space. It would also create a hole at point guard, but it would give them cap space. So, that is your primer. What would you do if you were in the Lakers front office? And I'm serious. Who the hell replaces Darvin Ham? Really? And if you were a coach, would you really want that job with a franchise in that much flux? It takes a special person to play for the Lakers. It damn sure takes a special person to coach the Lakers. Meanwhile, scribes are already coming to the, I shouldn't say already. It took them a while. Scribes are coming to the realization, ever so slowly, that Kawhi Leonard's 3-year, $152 million contract extension might be a bad idea. It struck them because there is no timetable for Leonard to return to the playoff series against Dallas, let alone play well. Now, I don't know what those smooth brains who finally realized that, I don't know what took them so long. Leonard blasted out a knee ligament, for example, in the 2021 playoffs. He misses the entire next season as a result. Then a different ligament bursts into flame in 2023. The Clips get smashed by Phoenix. This is 4 consecutive postseasons where Leonard, in one way or another, could not help the Clippers. If it quacks like a duck and it limps like a duck, then your duck is named Kawhi. I'm not saying this to hate on the guy either, by the way. I was in Toronto the year that Leonard carried the Raptors to an NBA title. It was a magnificent time to be up in Canada. The entire nation, an entire nation, was in love with this guy. So other teams obviously took notice of Leonard, and they were willing to do whatever it took to get him. The Clippers were even willing to flush every draft pick for a decade. Just flush it right into the septic tank that is Oklahoma City because Leonard wanted Paul George so much. But with the Clippers, Leonard is only suited up for 28 of 41 playoff games. The extension for Leonard, in my opinion, is such a profound mistake that it's hard to say which part of it is the worst of the deal. For example, is it that that Leonard will not be around to help the Clippers through what's ever left of their championship window? Or 2, that the Clippers lusted to overcome the Lakers so bad that they paid Leonard $350 million over the course of 6 squandered seasons. And oh, by the way, they didn't overcome the Lakers because the Lakers won the title in 2020. Is it this? Faced with the question of extending Leonard, Paul George, or both, the Clippers chose Leonard. We still have no idea what they think of Paul George. And we'll get back to that in a moment. What about this question? What about James Harden, who also wants a new contract? It's almost as if Steve Ballmer was saying, you know what, we have no choice but to keep this team together, even though we know there's a better chance of pumping 50,000 volts into Matthew Perry for a Friends reboot. And of course, they're opening Intuit Arena this fall, and they need to have a big name to sell tickets. Now, it blows me away that it took the scribes this long to figure out that this extension was a bigger risk than the crypto market. And by the way, why the hell would Paul George stay? Philadelphia has a center, a guard, and a max contract they could just drop in his lap. Now, don't get me wrong, the Clippers right now are absolutely in decent shape against Dallas. But assuming they get out of the round, do you see this roster competing for a ring without Kawhi Leonard? And what would make anybody confident that he would play in the 2025 playoffs and beyond? Anyone? Back when I was a scribe, switching teams again, we would give coaches and players the benefit of the doubt in quotes. And what I mean by that is we would remove the cussing. We would remove some of the bad grammar, N-bombs, stuff like that. Leatu Letu falling to 15 in the first round made Indianapolis GM Chris Ballard say, Quote, we've got the best defensive player in the draft, unquote. Only that wasn't the real quote. He didn't say that. In the so-called war room, he said, we've got the best rusher in the draft. So that's how we scribes have operated. But keeping with UCLA, we mentioned yesterday that in UCLA football spring game, the offensive line was shuffled around. 3 players were in new positions, and Coach Deshaun Foster told the scribes that he wants his linemen to be able to play multiple positions during the game, quote, in case there's multiple injuries or anything crazy that can happen in the game, unquote. Now, I'm not sure that's a good idea. You want some semblance of stability. You want some sense of, I know what my role exactly is on the O-line. It does make sense if Foster believes that he won't have enough linemen for the season because, after all, he was hired seriously late, couldn't get into the recruiting process. And it's worth adding the Bruins don't have a full cadre of offensive linemen. Benjamin Roy entered the transfer portal. Now, on the plus side, UCLA has added a tight end from the portal. That would be Bryce Pierre, coming from Arizona State. But he only caught 17 passes last year. The Dodgers' Tyler Glasnow has pitched 43 innings so far, which doesn't sound like a big deal until you realize the most he's ever pitched in a season is 120. Walker Buehler, we don't know if he's going to be the answer to give the Dodgers some extra innings. He is going to get another rehab start tonight, which obviously means he hasn't impressed the front office enough yet to escape Oklahoma City. His ERA in the minors is 4.86, but here's what's distressing. We don't know if he can find the plate. His runners allowed per inning is 1.68. And since we're looking at the Dodgers minor leaguers, Eric Karros' son, Jared, he's a right-hander with single-A Great Lakes. He has a 2.70 ERA in 20 innings and has struck out 25. I bring that up not because he's going to be in LA soon, but he should get promoted to Tulsa pretty quickly. Are you one of those people who cannot get enough minutia about the NFL draft? Well, every scribe is only too happy to fill that void in your life. CBS went through every NFC team, selected the best, worst, and most interesting pick from each team. For the Rams, the best was Bo Limmer of Arkansas, and we talked about that when he was taken. Future starting center, they all exulted. Everything I read about him just glowed radioactivity for a 6th-round pick. Here's the problem. The interior Rams offensive line is totally set. So when does this guy play? Right? Great pick. When do you play? Texas wide receiver Jordan Whittingham was called the worst. I can't really argue that. He doesn't suck. He just doesn't stand out. And the Rams have a good receiving room. The most interesting pick was first-rounder Jared Verse, the defensive end from Florida State. But it's not that Verse is somebody that I find interesting. It's the fact that the Rams took all these steps to rebuild their defensive line in total because they knew they could not replace Aaron Donald with one person. That's what's interesting. They knew they weren't going to find another unicorn. So instead, they took a holistic approach. It's bright, it's the right call, and it's also interesting to see if it's going to work. But you let me know what you think in the comments thread. Tell me what you would do if you were a bus running the Lakers. How bad is the Kawhi Leonard contract extension in your eyes? And if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelenos. We are talking LA sports every single day here. Thank you for watching. I'm James. We'll be back tomorrow. Faithful Angelenos is a Kian Corte El Queso production. Take care.